Chiefs Kingdom, welcome into a brand new episode of the Chiefs Report by Chad Sports. And today, we're talking about the possibility of the Kansas City Chiefs moving down in the 2026 NFL Draft. Could it happen? Bill Barnwell thinks there's a chance. He put together a mock trade for every single team at every single pick of the 2026 NFL Draft. So there's two options for the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously because we have two first-round picks, thanks to that trade with the Los Angeles Rams. So we're going to go over both of his trade ideas. Then we're going to talk about some draft options after the trade, some guys that the Kansas City Chiefs could potentially pick up if they were to move back, some new options at those selections. And then we're going to talk about whether or not I think we should do this. My verdict on the move, whether or not it would be the right decision for the Kansas City Chiefs. But before we get into the show, I've got a little trivia for you guys. I got a little game that I want to play before we get into it, and I want you to answer in the comments. So obviously, the last first-round pick for the Kansas City Chiefs in the top 10 was Patrick Mahomes in 2017. But discounting him, I want you to tell me who was the last first round or top 10 draft pick for the Kansas City Chiefs before Patrick Mahomes. So top 10 in 2017, Patrick Mahomes goes 10th. Who did they pick in the top 10 before that? It was just a couple years earlier. Let me know in the comments if you know the answer to that one. And let's see Bill Barnwell's first trade idea here for the 9th overall pick. So if we were to move out of 9, this is what Barnwell thinks we could get. The 18th overall pick from the Minnesota Vikings. Their third-round pick, the 97th overall selection, edge rusher Jonathan Greenard. And obviously, we'd be giving up our first-round pick, the 9th overall, and FAU, former first-round pick in the 2024 draft, is going over in this move as well. So here's what Bill Barnwell had to say about why this move makes sense for Kansas City, and then we'll talk about whether or not I think it would make sense for us. So here's what he said. We've heard that picking 9th gives the Chiefs a rare chance to address critical positions on their roster with a premium pick, and that's true. But what if they do that in a relatively unconventional way? George Karlaftis has settled in as a solid starter, and Chris Jones's impact hasn't dipped as much as his statistical production suggests, but the Chiefs would love to come out of this draft with an impact edge rusher. They might be just a tad too low to land that player at number 9 if the board goes as expected. I agree. We've talked about this a lot, right? Edge is a huge need for this team, but where we sit at number 9 does not position you very well to come away with one of the top options. That's a discussion we've had over and over again. We've done a number of mock drafts, and I can tell you guys, the frequency with which the top options at edge, which, if I need to remind you, my board for this looks like Ruben Bain and David Bailey as the two best edge defender options that match what the Kansas City Chiefs need, that would fit our profile. I think Arvell Reese is a solid player. I don't think he would be an edge defender in the Kansas City Chiefs system, though. I think Spags is moving that guy to linebacker with the quickness. So we would need either Ruben Bain or David Bailey if you really want to upgrade your pass rush. I think both of those guys could truly do it, but I genuinely do not think either of them will be available. I think you're going to have to settle in some way, and although all three of those options would be great options, for one of the other three guys there, Caleb Downs, Mansour Delane, or Carnell Tate. One of them should be there for you at number 9, but it's incredibly unlikely that Bain and Bailey will be. This gives you a path to address that, to get better on the edge without moving out of the first round entirely. You still have 2 first-round picks, and you've added an edge defender who, unlike Ruben Bain and David Bailey, even, who I think are fantastic, yes, they're significantly younger, we know Jonathan Greenard can produce at the NFL level. We know Jonathan Greenard can get after the passer, can be an incredibly productive edge. Yes, he's not coming off of the best season of his career, but he dealt with injuries last year in Minnesota, only 3 sacks. You look at the prior 2 years, 24.5 combined sacks over that stretch and 44 quarterback hits for Jonathan Greenard. Fantastic stretch in 2024, 2023. And if he can stay healthy next season, I know he can get back to that guy. He's only 28 years old. And you might be wondering, How does this trade value out? I always use the Rich Hill value chart. I think it's the most accurate one, the one that values the first overall pick as 1,000 points of draft value. So this would be us receiving 336 points worth of pure draft capital and giving the Vikings 387 points, which values Jonathan Greenard as just a third-round draft pick, equal to the 84th pick in an average draft class. I think he's worth more than that. I think Jonathan Greenard, if you were to trade straight up for him, that feels like second-round pick value to me for an edge defender of his talent at 28 years old on a pretty affordable contract. That is an incredible addition to this Kansas City Chiefs defense at incredible value. This would be a monster move because, again, we're talking about options at 18. Remember, you're still holding on to the 18th overall pick, and you'd still also have 29 in your back pocket. We're going to talk about trades for 29 soon as well. But who would be available for you at 18 if you were to move back? I think a lot of the same options that you would have had at 9 in terms of positional value, right? We're talking about addressing corner or secondary primarily at that spot. So who would be there? Avion Terrell. Very likely. The Clemson corner, one of the top options in the secondary, still going to be there almost certainly for you at 9. This isn't going to be the range where you can come away with Mansour Delane or Caleb Downs, but still great options to upgrade in the secondary. You want to go safety? Dylan Thieneman will likely be there for you as well. Fantastic product out of Oregon. Another excellent addition to this room. Colton Hood, the Tennessee corner, who we've talked about a lot. Very likely to be there. I simulated on Underdog. They have this tool where you can check the availability percentage for certain players at each pick, and every single guy on this list was available at 18 in greater than 80% of their last 2,000 mock drafts. So the idea that they'll be there is almost guaranteed. Of course, nothing's guaranteed in draft season, but it's as close as it gets in a situation like this. You're going to have some really solid options. Brandon Cisse out of South Carolina, another really solid, more of a project corner, but all 4 of these guys are sufficient upgrades to your secondary. Are they as good as the Mansour Delanes and Caleb Downses of the world? No, but is upgrading at the edge absolutely worth it to take a slightly worse corner or safety prospect? 100% yes. When you can come away with both of those before you've even gone through 20 picks of this draft, my goodness, what a win that would be for this team. But if you don't want to move off 9, if your heart's set on coming away with one of Mansour Delane, Caleb Downs, or maybe you're a Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon fan, you want to see the Kansas City Chiefs add an elite receiver. I know some of you guys are out there. Maybe you want to trade 29. Maybe there's another package that we could do to get a different edge. How about this one from the Steelers, We'd be getting the Steelers' second-round pick, 53rd, a fourth-round pick, 121, Alex Highsmith, and only giving up the 29th overall pick. Bam. Let's see what Bill Barnwell thinks about this one, what he had to say. He said, Highsmith has been a consistently productive pass rusher for the Steelers, averaging nearly 11 sacks per 17 games over the past 4 seasons. He's an effective two-way edge defender who can immediately step in as a valuable secondary edge rusher alongside Chris Jones and George Karlaftis. Highsmith has also posted better than average missed tackle rates throughout his career. Yes, he has. And honestly, I think Barnwell undersells Highsmith. I think he talks about Highsmith as a more of like a rotational support piece for George Karlaftis. Highsmith is capable of being a number 1 takeover edge, in my opinion. He's been with the Steelers for the last couple of years, working across from TJ Watt, and the production, especially when you consider a lot of the other guys that are on that Steelers defense and the fact that he's missed time in both of the last 2 seasons, it's really eye-popping, right? 9.5 sacks on 13 games last year, 6 sacks in 2024, 7 sacks in 2023, 14.5 in 2022. Elite production is not that far out of the rear view window for this guy, or rear view mirror, for this guy. He has that kind of potential to upgrade your pass rush. And even if he doesn't, at this price tag, enormous win for the Kansas City Chiefs. You're adding a second-round draft pick, another pick in the top 100. Yes, you're moving off of 29, but that would still leave you with 9, where you could have selected, or hopefully already did select in this situation, a superstar to either upgrade your secondary, or hell, maybe an edge rusher slid to you in that situation. Now you're even more upgrading the edge, but I think if you're going with Highsmith in this, it's unlikely that that happened. But you've already upgraded in the secondary, and you still have 40 and 53 now as well to continue upgrading, plus an additional 4th, and edge is hopefully solved with the addition of Alex Highsmith. Let me hear from you. Would you make this move? Are you in or out? Give me a T for trade if you're trading for Alex Highsmith. Give me a P for pass, and I'm going to let you guys know my take right now. I would make either of these moves. I think I'm more on the Highsmith train than the Greenard train. I think Highsmith is one of the more underrated edge defenders in the entire NFL, and I really like the trade value you would be getting there and the ability to still keep 9. But on either of these trades, you win massively. I know we talked about it a little bit already, but just 3 major ways that I see you winning. If you aren't already convinced, if you're not spamming T for trade in the comment section right now, let's go through 3 more ways that you win, and let's see if I can't change your mind, get you to go spam some T's in that comment section for me. Number 1, you get to address edge no matter how the board falls for you. Even if you don't get Ruben Bain, even if David Bailey's out of the picture, even if those guys go 2nd and 3rd, respectively, which is absolutely possible, to the Jets and Cardinals, who might both want to get better in those positions, and Arvell Reese is off the board, even though I don't really think he's a great schematic match for us anyway, you get to address edge no matter what with both of these trades, with someone you know can produce, with someone you know can be productive at the NFL level, and alongside doing that, you get to add an extra draft pick in the top 100. Both of these trades have you doing that. With Greenard, it would be the 97th overall pick from the Minnesota Vikings, plus you're trading for 18, obviously, so you'd have that one as well. And with the Steelers, you're adding 53. So 2 huge additions for you as far as draft capital goes, another pick in the top 100. And then you still get to address other needs with the 9th overall pick if you go with the Highsmith pick, or with the 29th overall pick if you go with the Greenard trade. You still have another pick in the first round, either way you go on this, whether it's the earlier one in the top 10 or the later one at the tail end of the first. You have an opportunity to address one of the other needs, whether that's receiver, corner, safety, whatever you want to do with that pick. You can do it in the first round in the top 30 selections of the NFL draft and still make one of these 2 moves, which we just talked about all the ways you win off of that. Enormous. I think it's a no-brainer. If Ruben Bain or David Bailey are not there, and I'm Brett Veach, I am calling everybody who I think might want to move up and seeing what they might want to offer to do so. I absolutely love the idea of the Kansas City Chiefs moving down, letting somebody else come up and get somebody they're in love with. Maybe somebody's in love with Ty Simpson and wants to trade up to 9 to make sure nobody else can grab Ty Simpson. I wouldn't do it, but let that be their mistake. Let us take the draft capital from them and do all the things that we just talked about being able to do with these 2 trades, whether it's the Vikings, the Steelers, or any other number of teams that might want to move up. I think moving down should absolutely be on the Kansas City Chiefs radar. That's going to wrap it up for today's episode of the Chiefs Report, though. Let me know in the comments if you guys agree with me. Type those T's for trade, those P's for pass if you disagree. I'll be responding as always. I always love to hear where you guys are at on these things, and we'll see you in the next one. Let's go, Chiefs.